Hello everyone and welcome back to Scary Dark Narrations. Tonight we're re-diving into one of the most chilling themes in the world of true horror, the terror of being completely alone when something starts watching you in the dark. In this episode we'll explore 7 of the most disturbing, real-life encounters that happened when the sun went down and the silence turned deadly. These are the stories of people who thought they were safe inside their homes, their cars, their campsites, till the night itself seemed to come alive. Each account comes from real witnesses who faced the unexplainable when no one else was around to help. They aren't urban legends or internet myths. They're authentic retellings from those who survived the kind of fear that leaves scars long after the lights come back on. From late-night drivers who realized they weren't alone on the highway, to hikers who felt eyes following them deep within the woods. 2 homeowners who discovered why some knocks on the door should never be answered after midnight. For privacy and safety, certain details have been changed, but the core horror remains untouched. These tales serve as a reminder that sometimes solitude isn't peaceful. It's a warning. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe to Scary Dark Narrations for more true horror stories that'll keep you looking over your shoulder long after the video ends. And remember, when you're alone at night, be careful what you listen for, because something might be listening back. It started with that hum, low, rhythmic, mechanical, the kind that settles into your chest when you alone with nothing but time and the sound of spinning machines. I'd gone to wash my clothes that night because I couldn't stand another morning of pulling crumpled jeans from a pile. The townhouse washer had died weeks ago, and my roommate kept saying she'd look into it. She never did. So, there I was, 9:00 p.m., standing under the jaundiced glow of flickering fluorescent lights. Inside a nearly empty laundromat, on the outskirts of D.C., the air smelled faintly of detergent and something metallic, like old coins and rust. I loaded my clothes, dropped in some detergent, and took a seat on one of those molded plastic benches, the kind that feels like they were made to punish you for sitting too long. I scrolled through my phone, half listening to the dryer's hum, half lost in my thoughts. Then the glass door chimed. A man walked in. He was tall, 6'3" maybe, with an average, forgettable face. But there was something about him that wasn't average at all. It was the way he moved, too smooth, like his steps had already been rehearsed. He glanced around, smiled faintly, and then of all the empty seats, he chose the one right next to me. I didn't look up at first, headphones in, fake focus on my screen, but he spoke anyway, his voice calm, friendly, almost disarmingly so. "You live nearby?" he asked. It was such a casual question, but the tone underneath wasn't casual at all. I answered vaguely, something about being new to the area. Kept going, asked about school, my job, my family was close. The questions piled up, all sugar-coated with that polite tone people use when they want to seem harmless. Oh. The fluorescent light above us buzzed louder. My reflection trembled in the stainless steel of the washer door. I told him I had a boyfriend, that he was waiting for me. He chuckled low, almost to himself, and said, "We can still be friends, right? Maybe dinner sometime?" Something in my stomach turned cold. I smiled tightly and turned back to my phone, trying to look busy. He didn't move right away. Just sat there, breathing slow, steady. I could feel him staring. When I finally looked up, he was already standing, still smiling, before heading toward the soda machine at the back. Minutes passed. I tried to shake off the unease, telling myself I was overreacting. The hum of machines filled the silence again. I switched my clothes to the dryer and turned back toward the bench, and that S when I saw him again. He was pacing, slow, deliberate, tracing the same line from the vending machine to the entrance and back again. Each pass brought him closer. Each turn, slower. My reflection caught him behind me, a tall, broad shadow gliding past the dryers. The only exit was across the room. He was between me and the door. I didn't move. I watched through the reflection, pretending to check the dryer's timer. His eyes met mine in the glass, a faint grin forming as if he could see through me. My throat felt dry. Ow. Every instinct screamed to leave, but my legs wouldn't move. It was the strange kind of fear that glues you to the ground, ancient animal. Then, without a word, he walked out. The bell above the door chimed once more, and the hum returned to normal. I forced myself to breathe. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was just some lonely guy being awkward. I told myself that over and over until the dryers clicked to a stop. Still, my gut twisted when I looked toward the front. I couldn't see him, but that didn't mean he was gone. I gathered my clothes, heart pounding, and made for the side exit, a metal door meant for employees but unlocked that night. The cold air hit me as I stepped outside, relief washing over me. For a second, then I froze. He was there. His car was parked at the main entrance, engine off, driver's door open. It leaned against the frame, phone in hand, not scrolling, not talking, just waiting. His face tilted slightly when he noticed me. The corner of his mouth twitched into something between a smile and a smirk. My heart slammed in my chest. I pretended not to see him, pulling my phone from my pocket with shaking hands. I called my friend and whispered, "Stay on the line with me." Then I started walking fast, not running yet. Behind me, the door creaked shut, and for a heartbeat, then silence swallowed everything. The night air felt colder than it should have. My breath came out sharp and shallow, the kind that stings your throat. My friend's voice in my ear was small and tinny. "Are you okay?" But I couldn't answer. I was too busy listening for footsteps. The sound of gravel crunching behind me made my blood turn to ice. I didn't look back. Not yet. The restaurant's neon sign glowed 2 blocks down, a safe haven in a sea of shadows. I fixed my eyes on it like it was the only thing keeping me alive. Then came the sound, a door slamming shut. Car tires screeching. I turned the corner, my pulse thundering in my ears. The noise stopped. No headlights. No footsteps. Just stillness. Inside the restaurant, warmth hit me in a dizzy wave. I ordered a drink just to blend in and sat near the window. My hands were trembling so badly, I nearly spilled it. Outside, the laundromat's parking lot lay in view, and there he was. It's the same tall frame, still as stone. No one else around. Just him. He wasn't scrolling his phone, wasn't smoking or eating. He was watching. His car idled with headlights dimmed. Every few minutes, he'd lift the phone, point it toward the laundromat door, then lower it again. Recording? Waiting for someone else? I couldn't tell. My friend kept talking, but I barely heard her. The clock on the wall ticked slower than it should have. The world felt muted, like sound itself didn't want to disturb whatever this was. Minutes turned to half an hour. He never moved, not once. When his car finally rolled away, it was almost anticlimactic, slow, deliberate, like a predator that knows exactly when to stop chasing. I didn't move for another 30 minutes. Even when I finally ordered an Uber, I made sure it arrived on the opposite side of the block. I couldn't shake the feeling that he'd circle back. When I got home, I locked every door, checked every window twice. The townhouse was still, except for the faint creaks of settling wood. I sat on the floor, clutching my bag of warm clothes, breathing like someone who'd just escaped drowning. I told no one. Not my roommate, not my boyfriend. It felt ridiculous, a creepy guy at the laundromat. That's all it was, right? But that voice in my gut wouldn't shut up. It whispered when I tried to sleep, when I walked home after class, when headlights slowed too long near my building. Weeks passed. The laundromat shut down temporarily for maintenance, or so the handwritten sign said. I avoided it completely. Then one night while doom-scrolling Twitter, I saw it. A thread from a girl across town. She wrote about a man who approached her in a nearly empty subway station, asking personal questions, offering a ride, smiling the whole time. When she declined, he followed her out, waited near her car for over an hour before driving away. Her description matched him exactly. Same height, same calm tone, same friendly persistence. Police replies flooded the comments, missing persons reports, CCTV captures, speculation about organized trafficking rings operating in DC suburbs. My throat closed. My reflection in the screen looked like someone else's. That night, I dreamed of that laundromat, the hum of machines turning slower and slower until everything stopped. The fluorescent lights flickered out one by one, leaving only that glass door glowing faintly. And behind it, a figure, still waiting. Sometimes when I walk home late, I still hear that hum, faint, mechanical, behind me. I tell myself it's just traffic, wind, anything but what I know it really is. Because deep down, I'm not sure he ever left. And if he's still out there, if he's still waiting, would you dare return to that laundromat? The night rain was so heavy, it looked like the sky itself had split open. Sheets of water slammed against the windshield, and the wipers struggled to keep up. My headlights carved weak tunnels through the downpour as I gripped the steering wheel tighter. The hum of the tires on the slick asphalt was oddly hypnotic. And for a moment, I almost forgot where I was heading. Just me, my car, and the storm swallowing everything beyond 10 feet. My friend Evan sat beside me, talking about the event he was going to, something about a reunion. Old friends and music too loud for my taste. I wasn't really listening. The world outside looked like a watercolor painting melting under a faucet, and I was too focused on not hydroplaning. When we finally pulled up around 8:30, he jumped out, umbrella snapping open, yelling thanks over the roar of the rain. I waved him off, watching him disappear into a sea of headlights and umbrellas. I didn't feel like driving back home only to return an hour later. The storm had drained me, and my new car-smooth leather, that new smell, and the best sound system I'd ever owned, felt like a sanctuary. I figured I'd park somewhere quiet, play some music, and wait it out. That's when I spotted the Vacant gas station a few blocks down. Its sign flickered weakly, one tube buzzing in and out of life. The lot was empty, puddles reflecting the glow of the streetlights like broken mirrors. The windows of the convenience store were dark, the doors chained shut. It looked abandoned, but also perfect for a bit of solitude. I pulled in and parked under a half-dead canopy. The rhythmic drumming of rain against the roof became a dull, soothing heartbeat. I scrolled through my phone, trying to connect to the Bluetooth. For a few minutes, it was just me, the sound of rain and the faint hum of the car's engine. The kind of quiet that makes you feel both peaceful and exposed. That's when I noticed movement in my peripheral vision headlights sweeping across the lot. An old white BMW pulled in fast, its tires hissing over the wet pavement. My first thought was that someone else had the same idea to wait out the storm. But the way they parked directly facing me in the center of the lot felt deliberate. 2 men in the front, a woman in the back. No one smiled. They didn't even look confused. They just stared. A pulse of unease climbed my spine. I tried to act casual, fiddling with my phone, pretending not to notice them. Maybe they'd leave, but instead the passenger door burst open. A man stepped out, mid-30s, soaked within seconds, and started running toward me. For a split second, I froze. My brain struggled to process what I was seeing. His expression wasn't of someone asking for help. It was fury. His eyes locked on me like I'd just done something unforgivable. His mouth moved, but the rain drowned his words. Something primal in me screamed to move. I slammed my foot on the gas. The tires screeched and water exploded around me as the car lurched forward. I didn't think, just reacted. My heart hammered so violently I thought it might burst through my chest. In the mirror, the man was still chasing me, shouting something into the storm. Then I saw Hertha, woman from the back seat, getting out too. She stepped into the flood of my taillights. For a moment, her face looked wrong. It's not distorted by motion blurring, as if her features didn't quite belong to her. Her eyes reflected the red glow like glass marbles, unblinking, locked on me. I turned sharply onto the street, ignoring a red light, tires slipping against the rain. The car fishtailed before gripping again. My breathing came in ragged gasps. Every time lightning flashed, I expected to see those headlights behind me, but the road stayed empty. Minutes later, I reached the highway. The silence that followed was deafening. I loosened my grip on the wheel, realizing how badly my hands were shaking. The rain softened into a drizzle, like the storm had spent itself. I pulled into a well-lit rest stop, the fluorescent lights glaring harshly against the wet pavement. I sat there, engine idling, trying to convince myself it was just an attempted carjacking. 3 people, desperate for money or a vehicle. Nothing supernatural, nothing personal. But deep down, something didn't fit. The way they'd looked at me, especially her, like they already knew me. Then, silence swallowed everything. The rain had stopped, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still following me. Every car that passed felt like it was moving too slowly. Every shadow seemed to stretch just a little too long. I told myself to breathe, that it was just adrenaline. But when I glanced at my phone to call Evan, I saw a message that made my stomach drop. "Hey man, sorry, can't make it tonight. Something came up. Rain's insane though. Stay safe." My thumb hovered over the screen. He'd texted that an hour ago. Before I'd even picked him up, a cold ripple spread through my chest. Who had I dropped off? I scrolled through my call log. His name was there, sure, but the number wasn't his. Knew it wasn't. I'd memorized Evan's number years ago. My breathing turned shallow. I dialed it anyway. The call connected instantly. But instead of a ring, I heard static wet, whispering static like wind through wires, and a voice, faint, close. "You shouldn't have left." The line went dead. My reflection in the windshield looked pale, foreign. My pulse roared in my ears. I told myself it was a prank. Someone spoofed his number, or I'd misread the text. But even as I said it aloud, my voice trembled. The car suddenly felt smaller. The world outside larger. Sound broke through the night. Tap, tap, tap. I looked up. First I thought it was raindrops on the glass again. But no, it was coming from the passenger side window. Slow, deliberate, 3 taps. Then silence. I turned my head, and for a fraction of a second, I saw something move, a reflection where there shouldn't have been one. A pale face pressed against the glass. But when I blinked, it was gone. The panic that surged through me was pure instinct. I threw the car into drive and shot back onto the highway. The sound system crackled suddenly, Bluetooth connecting by itself. My phone's screen flickered. The song title read, "They Never Left," and then voices, not music. Whispering low and wet, filling the car from all directions. "You saw us. Yeah, you ran. Now we ride with you." I hit the volume button, but it didn't change. I tried to disconnect the Bluetooth, but my phone froze. My own reflection on the black screen began to distort as too wide, grin too sharp. I dropped it onto the floor. Up ahead, the road curved toward another set of lights, another gas station. I swerved in, desperate to stop, to get out, to breathe. But as my tires rolled over the puddled lot, my stomach turned. It was the same gas station. The broken sign flickered in the same pattern. The puddles glowed in the same spots. Even the empty store windows stared back like black eyes. Slammed on the brakes. My headlights cut through the rain, misted air, and illuminated the old white BMW, parked exactly where it had been. Engine running. The passenger door opened. The same man stepped out, soaked, furious, running straight at me again. His mouth opened, screaming words that the storm drowned out. My brain screamed to reverse, to run again, but my body didn't move, because this time I saw the woman too standing by the car, smiling. Wrong again, stretching unnaturally beneath the glow. I blinked. She was closer. The driver's side handle clicked. Once. Twice. A third time. I turned to look and saw my own reflection in the side mirror. But the eyes staring back weren't mine. They were hers. Screamed, slammed the accelerator, and tore out of the lot, the BMW's headlights flashing once, then vanishing into darkness. I didn't look back. Didn't stop until dawn broke. And even then, the reflection in the rear view still didn't look like me. Would you dare return to that place? The night had that kind of stillness that makes your heartbeat sound louder than it should. The air in the Pacific Northwest always carried something electric-like. The forest itself was alive and listening. I'd been walking this same trail for years, always alone, always at night. People thought I was crazy for it, a woman my size wandering the woods after dark, but it was the only thing that ever made me feel calm. The world's noise seemed to vanish here, just the wind brushing through cedar branches, the soft crackle of gravel under my shoes, and my breath syncing with the rhythm of the night. I kept my routine simple. Pepper spray in my right hand, phone in my left. I didn't use the flashlight unless I had to, half because I liked the dark, half because I didn't want to see too much. One earbud in, one out, so I could hear the world. I'd done it so many times that the path felt like muscle memory turned by the moss-covered post. Step over the warped route, follow the curve past the last streetlight. After that, the world ended in blackness and marsh air. There's something about walking that long stretch that always reminded me of a forgotten dream. The moon never fully rose there. It just hung low, blurred by mist. The trees pressed close, their shadows moving in strange, deliberate ways. Sometimes I'd catch faint glimmers on the ground bits of broken glass, a wet leaf, or maybe... I told myself it was always just the reflection of my phone screen, always. That night, though, something felt different. The wind had stopped, and with it, the sound of the forest. No rustle, no distant owl, not even the buzz of cicadas. It was as if the world had inhaled and refused to exhale. My skin prickled. I remember adjusting my bag strap just to break the silence. Then I saw it something darker than the darkness itself, stretched across the trail about 30 feet ahead. At first, I thought it was a log, or maybe a shadow from a tree leaning over the path, but it didn't move with my light. It just absorbed it. I took a few cautious steps forward, my pulse hammering in my throat. The shape was solid, long, and strangely human. My stomach dropped before my brain even caught up. I stopped walking. My thumb hovered over my phone's screen, ready to dial 911. Then I saw the outline of a coat. Black, spread open like wings. My phone's weak light shimmered over something wet near his head, thin. Dark streaks that caught the reflection and vanished again. Blood. Not a lot, but enough to make every instinct in me scream to run. Instead, I heard myself whisper, "Hey, are you okay?" The silence that followed was unbearable. I took one hesitant step closer, smell of damp soil mixed with something faintly metallic, and then he moved. He sat up so fast it felt like the world glitched. 1 second stillness, the next motion. I stumbled back, my breath catching in my throat. His face was rough and burnt red, like he'd been sleeping in the sun for days. Dirt clung to his stubble. But his eyes, those were sharp, clear, awake. "I'm fine," he said, smiling like we were old friends. "Just resting." "You got any water?" Something about the way he said it made my skin crawl. I hesitated, but muscle memory made me polite. Handed him my water bottle and told him to keep it. He drank deeply, sighing like it was the first good thing he'd had in days. His bare feet were scraped and bleeding. "Cut myself wandering around," he said. "Figured I'd take a break here." That's when I recognized him. The town drunk. The one who used to stumble down Main Street yelling at invisible people, who once puked on my porch and called me names when I tried to help. I'd seen him a dozen times before, usually harmless, just pitiful. "Do you need me to call someone?" I asked carefully. "A friend? Maybe an ambulance?" He shook his head, eyes still fixed on me. "Nah," he said, smiling too wide. "Just resting my feet." I wanted to leave, but politeness glued me in place for a few seconds too long. Finally, I stepped around him, keeping a good distance, not turning my back fully until I had to. The air felt heavy, like something was watching from the trees. His gaze burned into me as I passed. Every nerve in my body screamed. When I finally reached the end of the trail, I didn't stop until my front door was shut and locked behind me. I leaned against it, my pulse still racing, trying to laugh it off. Just another weird night in a small town, I told myself. Nothing more. Then, silence swallowed everything. A few months later, his name showed up in the paper. He'd attacked a tourist in broad daylight, sliced open the guy's leg with a machete downtown. The article said he'd been living in the woods for weeks, completely strung out. It arrested him right there on the sidewalk. I remember staring at the photo of his mugshot. The same clear, unsettling eyes. The same smile. For a while, I avoided that trail. But the thing about habits is they call you back. Eventually, I convinced myself it was safe again. He was locked up. Nothing to worry about. So one warm evening in late August, I found myself walking that same path again. The light had that strange blue tint like the sky. Couldn't decide if it was day or night. My shoes crunched softly over the gravel, echoing through the quiet. It felt good to be back. Familiar. I was halfway through the trail when my phone buzzed a text from my sister. I stopped walking to read it, the screen lighting my face. That's when I noticed the smell. Faint but unmistakable rat, like something wet and dying. My stomach clenched. I turned off my phone light and stood still. Listening, nothing. Just the faint drip of water somewhere ahead. I told myself not to freak out. Probably a dead animal, I thought. A raccoon, maybe. I kept walking a little faster now. The trail curved sharply, and that's when I saw it. The same spot. The same stretch of path. Someone was lying there again. My chest locked up. No, I thought. Not this. Not again. My brain screamed to turn back, but my feet refused to move. My light trembled across the body, a man in a black coat, face down, arms sprawled. Every inch of me went cold. I whispered, "Hey," barely audible, no response. Then the hand twitched. He sat up, the same motion, the same impossible quickness. Only this time his eyes weren't clear. They were pale, cloudy, like milk. His face was thinner, skin stretched too tight, but the smile was still there. "You brought me water before," he said softly. "Do you have any tonight?" My breath stuttered. "You're supposed to be in prison," I whispered. He tilted his head, eyes glinting faintly in the dark. "My?" The night wind returned, scraping across the trees like dry bones. My phone slipped from my hand, the screen flashing as it hit the dirt. He started crawling toward me's, lowly, deliberately, as if savoring each movement. His coat dragged behind him, soaking up the mud. I turned and ran. My lungs burned instantly, legs trembling as the trail blurred beneath me. I didn't look back. Not once. Every sound behind me became him, the drag, the breath, the faint whisper of my name. When I finally reached the streetlight, I spun around. The trail was empty, just darkness swallowing everything again. My phone was gone. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't for days after. But what broke me wasn't the encounter. It was what I found a week later. A small article, buried in the local section. The same man, the same face, had died in prison 3 months before. Heart failure, cremated, no family, no burial. And yet when I went walking again to prove I wasn't crazy, I found my water bottle. It's the one I gave him, sitting upright in the middle of the trail. The cap twisted off, inside bone dry. Now, sometimes when I walk by that marshland, I swear I hear him behind me. The shuffle of bare feet, and the whisper, "You got any water?" And the air always so alive before, feels colder, heavier, like the forest itself remembers. Would you dare return to this trail?
Get out. Get out now.
It started with a sound I almost didn't notice, a faint rustle that didn't belong in the stillness of the night. I was 16, proud of my new driver's license, sitting at my mom's computer desk, typing away on a half-finished school paper. The glow of the monitor was the only light in the room, soft and blue against the walls. Outside, the neighborhood was silent, one of those suburban nights where even the wind seemed to rest. I remember thinking how ordinary everything felt, for it didn't. My mom's house always had that quiet hum to it, the refrigerator clicking on, the faint buzz of the ceiling fan, the occasional creak from the settling wood. It wasn't an old house, just lived in, familiar, safe. My parents were both working late at the aerospace plant, leaving me completely alone, but that had never bothered me before. I liked the solitude. It made me feel older, independent. When I finally stood up to stretch, I decided to take a quick bathroom break before finishing my essay. The bathroom was down the hall, facing the backyard through a narrow window that always felt oddly exposed at night. As I reached for the light switch, something stopped me, a sound soft but distinct, drifting from outside. It wasn't the hum of traffic or the breeze moving the trees. It was deliberate, a single crunch of grass, a faint scrape against the fence. My hand froze midair. The window was cracked open just enough to let the sound in. I leaned closer, my reflection faintly visible in the glass, my breath fogging it slightly. For a moment there was nothing, just darkness and the dull orange haze from the streetlight at the end of the block. Then movement. A shadow darted across the yard, too fast to make out. It wasn't large, maybe the size of a person, maybe not. I blinked, trying to focus, but it was gone before my eyes could adjust. I told myself it was nothing. It's probably a kid cutting through the yard. People did that sometimes to reach the next street, but still. Something about the way it moved didn't feel human. It was too quick. too silent. I closed the window and turned the bathroom light on, forcing myself to laugh it off. The laughter died before it even formed. The air suddenly felt heavier, colder, back in the living room. The computer screen had gone dim, casting only faint light across the carpet. The house felt different now, not quieter, just expectant, like it was holding its breath with me. I sat back down, fingers hovering over the keyboard, and tried to focus on my paper. Minutes passed. The tension began to fade. I typed a sentence, then another. Then, sound came again. This time it was closer, softer, slow movement. Not from the yard, but from directly outside the sliding glass door behind me. I didn't turn right away. My brain refused to accept it, but the sound persisted, a careful footstep, then another, followed by the faint squeak of the door's metal frame shifting slightly under pressure. Someone was there. I grabbed my phone with trembling hands and called my dad. He answered instantly, his voice calm but alert. I whispered what was happening, my eyes fixed on the dark glass door. He told me to stay where I was, that he'd get someone at work to call the police. His voice was steady, but I could hear the tension underneath. He told me to grab my keys and head to my car quietly. Car was parked on the side driveway opposite the backyard. That meant I'd have to go past the front windows, the ones facing the dark street. I didn't want to move. My body was locked in place, but the sound outside shifted again, a faint scrape against the glass, like fingertips brushing it. I couldn't stay. I whispered, "I'm going," and hung up. The front door creaked open louder than it ever had before. The cold air hit me like a slap. Every step down the driveway echoed, too loud, too fast. My keys rattled, betraying me. My chest was tight. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. The world around me felt wrong. Silence wasn't empty anymore. It listened. I reached my car, fumbling with the lock, hands shaking uncontrollably. When the engine roared to life, I didn't dare look back. I pressed the gas, tires squealing against the pavement as I tore down the street, every nerve in my body screaming that something was still watching me. Then, silence swallowed everything. By the time I reached my dad's workplace, my hands had gone numb from gripping the steering wheel. He was already outside waiting, his face pale under the harsh parking lot lights. I jumped out, still shaking, and before I could say a word, he said, "We're going back." I wanted to argue, to beg him not to, but the police were already on their way. He followed me home in his truck, headlights cutting through the darkness, each turn of the street feeling longer than the last. When we pulled into the driveway, the house was lit up, every window glowing like a beacon. That's when the dread hit again. I'd left it dark. I knew I had. The officers arrived moments later. My dad told me to stay in the car, but I couldn't look away as they entered. Guns drawn, flashlights sweeping through the rooms. From outside, I could see the light flicker across the walls, shadows jerking with every movement. The radio crackled. One officer's voice murmured something I couldn't hear. Then a pause, a long one. When they came back out, their faces didn't show relief, just confusion. "Everything's open," one of them said. "Every light, every door, every closet, even the attic and basement." My dad frowned. "Anything missing?" The officer shook his head. "Nothing. Not a single thing." That was worse. Much worse. Because it meant whoever had been inside hadn't come to steal. They'd just been there. We walked through together, my father refusing to let me out of his sight. I remember the air stale, thick with the smell of dust and warm electricity. The house felt violated, like something had crawled through it and left an imprint behind. The bedroom doors all stood open, the closets empty and yawning like mouths. Even the basement door, which we rarely touched, swung slowly as if someone had just walked through it moments earlier. I asked, my voice trembling, "Could it have been an animal?" The officer's answer was immediate. "No animal turns on light switches." I wanted to leave right then. Dad made me stay until they'd checked everything twice. When we finally stepped outside again, the night had gone silent, unnaturally so. The wind had died, the cicadas gone quiet. It was as if the entire neighborhood was holding its breath. Days after, I couldn't shake it. The image of that empty house burned into my brain, too bright to open. I couldn't sleep without the lights on. Every creak sounded like footsteps. Every whisper of wind against the siding made my heart race. Then, about a week later, something else happened. I was back at my dad's place trying to distract myself, when I got a text from my mom. Do you know why the garage light is on? She hadn't gone in there. Neither had I when she got home that night. She said the same thing. Every light was on again. Every door open. But this time, the police found something new. In the dust on the basement floor, a single footprint. Bare. Human. The strangest part. It was small. Too small for any adult. My mom moved out a month later. The new owners lasted only 6 before selling again. None of us ever went back. But sometimes when I drive by that street, I can see the faint glow from those same windows, always at night. Always too bright, like the house is still awake, waiting for someone to come home. And sometimes, I still dream about it. It's about standing in that hallway, hearing the whisper of movement just beyond the glass. The feeling of being watched by something that never left. Maybe it wasn't a person. Maybe it never was. Because every time I close my eyes, I see it, a faint blur moving just beyond the light, waiting for me to notice. Would you dare return to that house? The hum of the neon sign outside the restaurant was the last sound I heard before stepping into the night. It buzzed faintly, casting a red glow over the cracked asphalt of the parking lot. The air was warm, thick with the smell of fried food and the faint salt of the nearby Atlantic. I remember thinking how peaceful it felt, how safe, like the world had folded into silence just for me. I didn't know that silence was watching, waiting. ID just clocked out of my shift at the small diner off the main road outside Halifax. My feet ached, my apron smelled like coffee and grease. And all I could think about was getting to my boyfriend's house 10 minutes away. The town around me had gone still. Only the low hum of passing cars whispered through the air. Streetlights blinked in and out, their orange glow painting the pavement in uneven strokes. I sat at the bus stop under one of them, scrolling absently through my phone, half listening to the insects that sang behind the dumpster. It wasn't unusual for the lot to be empty this time of night. Still, the moment that red two-door coupe rolled in, something inside me twisted. The car's headlights dragged across the asphalt like searching eyes before it stopped. Not in a parking space, not near the restaurant door, but right in the middle of the lot, angled just enough to block my way back. I tried to ignore it. People got lost, stopped for directions. It happened, but then the engine idled. The driver didn't move. When his window rolled down, I heard it before I saw him. "Hey," he called out, casual like we knew each other. His voice carried through the still air, echoing slightly off the closed glass of the restaurant. I gave a polite hi, not wanting to seem rude, and turned back toward the road. The bus lights in the distance, just reflections in my eyes. "Where are you going, beautiful?" That line made my stomach clench. I turned just enough to see him, early 20s maybe. Baseball cap low over his brow, arms resting easily on the door, a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Just heading to my boyfriend's," I said, keeping my tone even friendly. He smirked. "You sure you don't want to hang out with me instead?" I tried to laugh it off, that awkward, shaky kind of laugh people do when they want things to stay normal. But then his voice dropped lower, playful, yet mean. "I bet his dick doesn't look like mine." It felt like the world stopped for a second. I froze, heart thudding, so loud it drowned out everything else. My fingers slid toward my pocket, searching for my phone, but he leaned forward, grinning wider now, voice sing-song and terrifyingly soft. "Get in the car for a second." I thought I'd misheard. Then he nodded toward the passenger seat. "Come on," he said, tone calm, but his eyes were hollow. I swallowed hard, forcing a polite, "No thank you," even though my throat burned. I started pulling my phone free. It's when I heard the click. His car door opened, slowly, deliberately. The sound sliced through the quiet like metal scraping bone. He stepped out tall, lean, his shadow stretching unnaturally long under the flickering streetlight. The fake smile vanished. His face hardened, expression blank. I said, "Get in the car." My brain screamed, "Run," but my body wouldn't move. The distance between us felt like nothing, 10 feet, maybe less. He started walking around the front of his car, steps slow, sure, like he'd done this before. Every instinct in me screamed to scream, but no sound came out. Then the restaurant door behind me slammed open. The noise cracked through the silence like thunder. I spun around and saw Jim, one of the kitchen guys, step out, He was built like a wall, broad shoulders, heavy tattoos, beard catching the glow of the sign behind him. He looked from me to the man, and everything froze. The guy stopped mid-step, chest rising fast. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then he turned sharply, climbed back into his car, slammed the door, and peeled out of the lot so fast I couldn't even see his plates. My legs went weak. I didn't realize I was shaking until Jim was standing next to me, his hand hovering near my shoulder. "You okay?" he asked quietly. I nodded, but no words came. My throat had closed up. Then, silence swallowed everything. The next morning, sunlight felt wrong. Too bright. Too ordinary. I told myself it was over, that I'd just had a close call. But that night, as I stood outside waiting for the bus again, I noticed something. A red reflection flickered in the corner of my eye. A car turning the corner a little too slow, headlights lingering a little too long. I told myself it couldn't be the same one. Halifax was full of red cars. But the way it idled across the street, engine low, patient, made my pulse rise. I forced myself to look down at my phone, pretending not to notice, counting the seconds until the bus lights appeared. When I finally boarded, my hands were shaking so bad I dropped my card twice. For a week, I avoided the late shift. I told my manager I wasn't feeling well. But work doesn't stop for fear, and eventually, I had to go back. Jim offered to walk me out that first night, but I told him I'd be fine. I wanted to believe that. The clock hit 10. The same neon sign buzzed. The same streetlight flickered above the stop. Everything looked exactly as it had that night, except quieter. Too quiet. I started across the lot, my reflection stretching ahead of me in the dark asphalt. That's when I heard it. A low rumble. Tires crunching gravel. I turned, and there it was. It's the red coupe. It rolled in, slow, headlights off this time. My heart dropped into my stomach. He hadn't forgotten. He'd been waiting. Watching. I took a step back toward the restaurant door, but it was locked. Everyone was gone. My phone buzzed in my pocket, low battery warning. The car stopped again, perfectly centered in the lot. The door opened. He didn't speak this time. He didn't need to. He just stood there, silhouetted in the darkness, his head tilted slightly, studying me like a specimen. I whispered, "Please, don't," before I even realized I was saying it. He smiled. Then he took a step forward. I ran. The sound of my sneakers slapping the pavement echoed through the empty lot. I cut around the back of the restaurant, heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. I ducked behind the dumpster, breath held, every muscle trembling. His footsteps followed, steady, measured, getting closer. I pressed a hand over my mouth to muffle the sound of my breathing. He stopped just a few feet away. I could hear him smiling, that wet, awful sound of lips parting in a grin. "Thought you could hide?" he whispered. I didn't move then. Nothing. Just the faint buzz of the neon sign. Minutes crawled by. When I finally peeked out, he was gone. The car, too. The lot was empty again. Silent, peaceful. Exactly how it had been before. I ran all the way to the main road, caught a passing taxi, and didn't look back. But since that night, things have never gone back to normal. I started seeing that same red car in strange places, parked across from my apartment, idling near my work. Always just far enough to make me doubt myself. And sometimes, when I close my eyes, I swear I can still hear his voice behind me. Soft, low, almost tender. "Get in the car. Would you dare return to this place?" The night had that strange quiet that only exists around 3 in the morning, the kind of silence that presses against your skin, making every sound echo too loud, too real. I hadn't stepped outside in almost a week. My ankle was still swollen from the fall, a purple knot of pain that kept me trapped indoors. The walls had started to feel like they were closing in. My thoughts were beginning to twist in ways they shouldn't. So when I couldn't sleep again, I told myself a short walk would help. Just down to the petrol station and back. 10 minutes, maybe 15. The air was cool as I stepped outside, my crutches clicking softly against the pavement. Each step sent a dull ache through my ankle, but it was manageable. The street lamps hummed faintly above me, spilling cones of yellow light that broke the darkness into fragments. I passed the quiet row of houses, each window dark except for one, a faint blue glow flickering behind curtains. Probably someone watching TV. I told myself that. But the movement inside didn't match the rhythm of a show. It was slow, deliberate, like someone pacing. I tried to shake it off, focusing on the rhythmic sound of my crutches tapping against the road. When I reached the traffic lights, a few cars passed, breaking the illusion that I was completely alone. One of them, a small dark hatchback, slowed beside me. Inside, 3 faces stared out, blank and motionless. The driver didn't blink, neither did the others. For a moment, none of us moved. Then the light changed, and they drove off without a word. My throat felt dry, but I laughed it off quietly. You're just on edge. It's nothing. The petrol station came into view at the end of the street, its harsh white lights a kind of sanctuary. I could already hear the low hum of the refrigerator units and the faint pop song playing from a radio inside. I told myself I'd just grab the Coke, pay, and go home. Easy. But halfway there, I heard it. The low rumble of an engine behind me. I didn't even need to turn around to know. The same car. It passed me slower this time, almost crawling. The faces inside were silhouettes now, but I could still feel their eyes on me. Watching, measuring. Inside the petrol station, everything felt too bright. The fluorescent lights flickered faintly overhead, and I felt exposed, like the moment I stepped out again, the world would close in. The cashier, an older guy with tired eyes, scanned my drinks and made a joke about my crutches. I smiled weakly and forced a laugh, even though my chest still felt tight. I almost told him what happened. Almost. But what would I say? A car full of people looked at me weird. You'd think I was drunk. When I stepped back outside, the silence hit me again, heavier this time, like the night itself was holding its breath. A man walked past on the opposite side of the street, head down, moving fast. His shoulders were hunched beneath a dark jacket, and his footsteps echoed sharply against the concrete. I thought nothing of it, until I noticed the same dark car again, idling by the traffic light just up ahead. The light turned green. The car didn't move. The taxi behind it honked twice. And that's when I saw the man stop and slowly turn around. His head tilted slightly, just enough for me to see that he was staring directly at me. My heart lurched into my throat. I turned into the next side street, pretending I hadn't noticed. The sound of footsteps followed, faint but distinct, in rhythm with my uneven gait. Click. Click. Step. The quiet between us felt like it was stretching thinner with every second. My pulse thundered in my ears. I tried to move faster, cutting across the corner into a neighborhood of dimly lit houses. The air smelled faintly of damp grass and old leaves. Somewhere behind me, a car door clicked open. Then, silence swallowed everything. I froze where I stood. The air had shifted, denser, colder. I turned my head slowly, and there he was, the same man from before. He was walking faster now, his steps sharp and deliberate, his face hidden beneath the shadow of his hood. I couldn't hear the car anymore, but I could feel it was still close, like it was waiting for something. My house was maybe 5 minutes away, if I pushed through the pain. But every step now felt like a war. My crutches clattered against the ground as I forced myself forward, the metal biting into my palms. Behind me, the footsteps grew quicker, louder. I turned down another street, then another, each one emptier than the last. The world had gone still again. I ducked into the front garden of a house and crouched behind a hedge.
Ow.
My breath came in ragged bursts. The sound of the engine returned, low and steady, as the car crept past the corner. Its headlights swept across the hedges like searching eyes. I pressed myself closer to the ground, heart hammering so hard I could taste blood in my mouth. The car rolled by, then another silence. When I finally pulled myself up, the street was empty. My crutches wobbled under me as I stepped back onto the path. That's when I heard it again, the crunch of gravel, closer this time. I turned, and for a brief moment, I saw him. Standing at the end of the street, perfectly still, watching. I moved faster, half limping, half running. Every swing of my crutches sent jolts of pain through my leg, but adrenaline drowned it out. My breaths came in sharp bursts, steam rising into the cold air. Sound of his shoes scraping the asphalt grew louder. Closer. I turned onto my street and almost cried when I saw the faint outline of my house ahead. But the relief was short-lived. The car was back. Parked at the end of the road this time. Headlights off, engine purring low. I pushed myself harder, ignoring the stabbing pain. My keys fumbled in my hand, slipping twice before I finally got the door open. I slammed it shut, locked it, and pressed my forehead against the wood, gasping for air. My heart felt like it was trying to break out of my chest. The alarm beeped faintly as I said it, and for a moment I almost believed I was safe. Then a faint thud, not from the front, from the side of the house. I moved to the window and peeked through the blinds. The street was still. It's completely still. But then, at the far corner, a shadow moved, a tall, thin outline against the dim light of the street lamp. The figure turned its head, as if sensing me watching, and began walking toward the house. I stumbled back, heart slamming against my ribs. The alarm flashed red. I thought about calling the police, but my phone was upstairs. The stairs felt endless. Every creak screamed through the silence. When I reached the top, I glanced out the window just in time to see the car rolling slowly past the bottom of the road again. It stopped, reversed, stopped again. Figure was gone. For a long moment, I stared into the dark street, trying to convince myself it was over. But then I saw it, a faint reflection in the glass. Behind me, someone standing at the bottom of the stairs. I turned, heart frozen mid-beat. But there was nothing. It's just shadows pooling where the hallway light didn't reach. I blinked hard, convincing myself I was seeing things. You're exhausted. You're panicking. I backed into my room and locked the door. My ankle throbbed as I sat on the edge of the bed, still gripping my phone. I listened. Nothing but the faint hum of the alarm system. Then another sound. The faintest scrape, like metal on wood. It was coming from the front door. I held my breath. Minutes passed. Then the scraping stopped. The night went perfectly still. I didn't move until the first light of dawn spilled through my curtains. When I finally looked outside, the street was empty. No car, no figure. But deep in the mud beside the hedge where I hid last night, I saw it. A single, fresh footprint. Facing my house. Would you dare return to that street, knowing they might still be watching?
I see you.
It started with that strange kind of quiet you only notice when you've been surrounded by noise for too long. The kids were asleep, the house was still, and for once, I had a sliver of time to myself. So when I realized I'd forgotten a few things for tomorrow's dinner, it felt almost freeing to go out alone. The clock on the dashboard glowed 10:42 p.m. as I pulled out of the driveway. My husband sounded half asleep when I called to tell him I'd only be a few minutes. I remember his voice echoing softly through the car, warm, familiar, before the line went dead.
Ow.
That warmth didn't follow me into the parking lot. The grocery store lights flickered against the empty asphalt. A single shopping cart rolled lazily across the lot, bumping into a curb with a metallic clang that made me flinch. Inside, the store smelled faintly of cleaning products and artificial lemon, that scent of places meant to feel safe. A few people wandered around with baskets, their shoes squeaking softly against the linoleum. I grabbed mine and headed toward the produce section, trying to ignore the way the hum of the fluorescent lights felt too loud. That's when I saw him for the first time. A man, mid-50s, salt and pepper hair, dressed too neatly for this hour. He stood in the middle of the cereal aisle, not moving, just there. I smiled politely, stepping around him. Small town habit, we all smile, even when something feels wrong. His eyes flicked toward me as I passed, dull and unblinking. I told myself he was just zoning out. But a few aisles later, he was there again. Not browsing, not even pretending to shop, just standing still, looking at me. The overhead light flickered above his head, and for a split second, his pupils caught the glare, turning his eyes into black marbles. I quickly turned into another aisle. My basket rattled against my hip, and I told myself to calm down, that it was late, that I was overthinking. The air felt heavier now, thicker. I made my way to the far side of the store, the dairy section where the glass doors reflected endless rows of identical cartons. I opened one, the cool air brushing against my face. When I closed it and turned around, I froze. He was standing just a few feet away, his cart abandoned, empty. He wasn't even pretending anymore. His expression hadn't changed, blank, emotionless. But his focus was absolute. My throat tightened, and I forced myself to move, to act normal. I turned toward the front of the store, walking quickly down the center aisle. My sneakers squeaked louder than before, echoing. Halfway there, I looked back. He was moving too slow, steady, pushing his cart with both hands, his head tilted slightly down, but his eyes still locked on me. That stare didn't break. I sped up, my breath shaky, my heart climbing into my throat. I turned into a random aisle to throw him off, pretending to grab something, anything. A box of cereal, maybe. When I looked up, the aisle behind me was empty. Relief washed through me like a wave. I moved fast, straight to self-checkout. The scanner beeped in rhythm with my heartbeat as I tossed items into bags, trying not to look around. But when I finally glanced toward the front doors, I saw him again. Standing by the exit, not shopping, not checking out, just waiting. My hands trembled as I fumbled through my purse. I only had my checkbook, of course. The self-checkouts didn't take checks. I waved a manager over, forcing a tight smile. My voice came out wrong, too high, too bright as I explained. She nodded kindly, transferring my items to a regular register. The man was still there, now moving closer. Slowly, he chose the lane directly behind me. Out of all the open ones, that one could feel his gaze drilling into my back as I wrote the check, my signature shaking across the paper. It took forever. The cashier chatted about the weather. I laughed weakly, pretending not to notice the silence behind me. The kind of silence that ice and tea, really quiet, just watching. When I finally turned, he was gone. Relief hit me so hard it almost made me dizzy. Automatic doors whooshed open ahead. I waited for a few families to finish checking out, then followed them out into the cool night air, sticking close as we crossed the lot. My keys were already in my hand. I tossed my bags into the passenger seat, climbed in, and locked the doors with shaking fingers. My breath fogged the windshield as I turned the key. The headlights flicked on, and that's when I saw him, parked one aisle over. His truck faced mine. The engine wasn't running. He just sat there, hands on the wheel, head slightly tilted, staring. Then, silence swallowed everything. I don't know how long I sat frozen, staring back at that silhouette through the glass. Seconds? Minutes? The world outside the car felt suspended, no movement, no sound, just two pairs of eyes locked through a pane of cold glass. Then I jolted into motion. My tires squealed against the asphalt as I pulled out, heading for the exit. The rearview mirror caught the flash of headlights behind me. He was following. My heart slammed in my chest as I turned down the main road. It was a two-lane stretch through empty neighborhoods, the kind that felt safe in daylight but hollow at night. The glow from my dashboard painted my hands blue. I drove faster, taking random turns. Every time I thought I'd lost him, I'd see those same headlights appear again, slow and steady, never rushing, never fading. Was he playing with me? The thought made my stomach twist. I turned down a residential street lined with identical houses. My blinker clicked too loud in the silence. Porch lights flickered by like blinking eyes. When I finally turned into a cul-de-sac, I killed the lights and waited. The night hummed with the low buzz of street lamps. For a moment, nothing. Then the headlights appeared at the end of the street. They paused, idling. Slowly, the truck began to crawl forward. Couldn't breathe. I threw the car into reverse and backed out fast, nearly clipping a mailbox. I sped toward the main road again, not caring about stop signs. The world outside became a blur of dark trees and scattered lights. My hands were slick on the steering wheel. At one point, I thought I'd lost him for good. The road stretched empty behind me. I laughed a small broken sound and turned toward home. My neighborhood was quiet, familiar, safe. I kept checking the mirror anyway. Nothing. By the time I pulled into my driveway, the adrenaline had drained, leaving me trembling and exhausted. I turned off the car. The sound of the cooling engine filled the air like a soft hiss. My porch light flickered once. I told myself it was just the wind as I grabbed the grocery bags and hurried inside. The door clicked shut behind me and I locked it twice. The house was still dark, everyone asleep. I leaned against the door, trying to slow my breathing. I almost laughed at myself, how ridiculous I'd been. Maybe he hadn't been following me at all. Maybe it was just a coincidence, or paranoia, or the tiredness creeping in after a long day. I unpacked the groceries slowly, one by one, the sound of rustling plastic loud in the kitchen. The refrigerator light cast a pale glow over the counter. When I closed the fridge, I caught my reflection in the dark window over the sink, pale face, wide eyes. Oh, and then, behind me, in the reflection headlights. They flickered across the curtains. My blood ran cold. I turned off the kitchen light, heart hammering. The headlights disappeared. For a few moments there was nothing but the ticking of the clock and the faint hum of the refrigerator. Then, a sound, the slow crunch of tires on gravel. I crept toward the living room window, pulling the curtain back just enough to see. His truck sat at the edge of the driveway. The engine was off again, the driver's seat empty. The front porch creaked. Every hair on my neck rose. I reached for my phone. No signal. My husband's car was gone. He'd left early for work tomorrow. I was alone. I stepped back slowly from the door. The floorboard beneath me groaned. Then 3 slow knocks. I didn't move. The air seemed to thicken, pressing down on me. Another set of knocks, faster this time. Then silence. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. Waited. Nothing. Finally, I gathered enough courage to peek through the peephole. The porch light had burned out completely. The space outside was pitch black, but I could hear breathing. Slow, ragged, just beyond the door. And then a whisper. You forgot something. I stumbled back, hand clamped over my mouth. The voice was soft, almost kind. A few seconds later, the sound of retreating footsteps faded into the distance. I didn't dare move until I heard the truck engine start and roll away. By the time morning came, the sun painted everything warm again, normal again. But when I stepped outside, something was waiting on the porch. A crumpled grocery receipt. My name scrawled across it in black ink. Would you dare return to that store? You thought that digital hauntings were terrifying? But there are darker things that don't need a signal or a screen to find you. Out there, beyond the glow of your monitor, something ancient still moves in the shadows. Things that breathe, hunt, and watch. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch 7 Most Disturbing True Cryptid Encounter Horror Stories *. It will show you what happens when the monsters aren't trapped in your devices, but waiting just outside your door. You'll find it right here on the end screen. But be warned, once you press play, you might start hearing the forest breathe. Before you go, make sure to subscribe to * Scary Dark Narrations * for more true horror stories that reach beyond the dark and into your nightmares. Turn on that bell icon so when the next story begins to whisper, you'll be the first to hear it. Until next time, keep your doors locked, your lights low, and remember, some legends are still alive.